The cardboard boxes landed on the front lawn before the front door even closed. A worn military duffel bag burst open, children's clothes scattered across the driveway, and two frightened 7-year-old twins stood silently holding each other's hands while their father stared at the home he had once promised would always protect them. Beside him, a loyal German shepherd began barking toward the porch as though he sensed something nobody else could see. The wealthy neighborhood looked away. Curtains closed. Cars drove past without slowing down. The decorated Navy SEAL who had survived combat overseas had just lost the hardest battle of his life, not on a battlefield, but on the doorstep of his own family. None of them knew that somewhere, a forgotten envelope held the truth that would change everything, and that the first clue would be found not by a lawyer or a banker, but by the dog that refused to leave his side. Before this unforgettable story begins, if you believe kindness, loyalty, and second chances still exist, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you love, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps these emotional stories reach people who need hope today. The morning had begun beneath a bright blue sky, but there was nothing bright about the lives of Ronan Keats and his twins. Ronan had spent nearly 16 years serving his country as a Navy SEAL. Discipline, courage, and sacrifice had shaped every part of his character. His teammates trusted him with their lives because he never abandoned anyone behind. Life, however, had not shown him the same loyalty. 3 years earlier, his wife Mireya had lost her battle with an aggressive illness only weeks after giving birth. Complications weakened her health beyond recovery. Since that heartbreaking day, Ronan had become both father and mother to his children, Soren and Nyla, while quietly carrying grief that never truly disappeared. After leaving military service, he accepted a modest security consulting job that allowed him to spend more time raising the twins. Money was never abundant, but the children always had clean clothes, bedtime stories, warm meals, and a father who never missed a school event. His greatest companion through every difficult season was Atlas, a highly trained German shepherd who had served beside him during his final overseas deployment. Atlas had saved Ronan's life more than once. Now the faithful dog guarded the twins with the same devotion. Following Mireya's passing, Ronan reluctantly moved into her parents' large suburban home after they insisted the family should stay together. At first, everything seemed peaceful. The twins played in the backyard, Atlas watched over them, and Ronan worked hard to rebuild life one day at a time. But as months passed, the atmosphere changed. Mireya's parents began criticizing everything. They complained that Ronan's military pension wasn't impressive enough. They questioned why he refused expensive gifts from wealthy acquaintances. They whispered that the twins deserved someone capable of providing a more luxurious future. What hurt most was knowing none of those criticisms came from concern. They came from disappointment. To them, Ronan wasn't successful enough. They admired wealth. They overlooked character. Still, Ronan endured the insults because the twins loved their grandparents. Every sacrifice seemed worthwhile if it protected the children from more heartbreak. Then one ordinary daytime morning changed everything. Without warning, Mireya's parents informed Ronan they were selling the property and no longer wanted him living there. They insisted the twins could stay. Only Ronan needed to leave. The suggestion shattered him. He refused immediately. No father who had carried his children through grief would ever abandon them. That refusal ended the conversation. Within an hour, every belonging he owned sat scattered across the front lawn. Neighbors watched silently while Atlas paced protectively around the children. Soren tried bravely not to cry. Nyla quietly hugged the dog around his neck. Ronan looked toward the bright afternoon sky, taking slow breaths exactly as military training had taught him during moments of crisis. He refused to let the children see panic. Even when his own heart felt broken. Fortunately, one person still remembered the man behind the uniform. Brenna Ellis, a retired elementary school teacher who lived across the street, hurried outside carrying bottled water and homemade sandwiches. She had watched Ronan volunteer at school reading days, coach neighborhood soccer games, and shovel elderly neighbors' driveways after snowstorms. She knew his character. Without hesitation she offered her small guest cottage until he found somewhere permanent. Ronan tried refusing. Brenna gently reminded him that accepting kindness was not weakness. Sometimes it allowed other people to do what was right. For several weeks the tiny cottage became home. It wasn't luxurious. The ceiling leaked whenever heavy rain arrived. The furniture barely matched. The kitchen table had only 3 chairs, forcing Atlas to lie faithfully beneath it every evening while the twins finished homework. Yet laughter slowly returned. Because home had never depended on square footage. It depended on love. Meanwhile Ronan worked longer hours, saving every possible dollar for a fresh start. He never complained. The twins noticed. One afternoon Soren secretly placed a handwritten note inside his father's lunch bag. It simply read, "You're still our hero." Ronan found the note during his lunch break. For several minutes he couldn't stop the tears. Not because life had become easier. Because his children still believed in him. Across town, another story unfolded quietly. Nearly 20 years earlier, Ronan's estranged great-uncle, Cedric Keats, had built an international shipping company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The elderly businessman had searched unsuccessfully for surviving family after losing contact decades earlier. Months before his passing, Cedric instructed attorneys to locate Ronan. Unfortunately, outdated military records, overseas deployments, and constant relocations delayed every attempt. Letters returned unopened. Phone numbers no longer existed. Eventually the legal documents disappeared into administrative investigations while the enormous inheritance waited untouched. Ronan remained completely unaware that he had become the sole heir to nearly $200 million. Weeks passed. Life continued. Every afternoon after school, Atlas walked the twins through the nearby park while Ronan finished work. The loyal dog followed the exact same path every single day. Until one unusually warm Saturday morning. Atlas suddenly stopped near an abandoned mailbox standing beside an old farmhouse scheduled for demolition. He refused to move. Instead, he began digging frantically beneath a loose wooden post. Ronan hurried over, believing perhaps the dog had discovered an injured animal. Instead, Atlas uncovered a weatherproof leather document pouch covered in dust. Inside rested several unopened envelopes. Every one of them carried the same name. Ronan Keats. The return address belonged to an unfamiliar law firm. The dates on the envelope stretched back nearly 8 months. Ronan stared silently. Why would official legal letters be buried beneath an abandoned mailbox? Who had sent them? And why had Atlas led him there after ignoring that path for weeks? With trembling hands, he slipped the unopened documents back into the pouch. Something deep inside told him. This discovery was about to change everything. Ronan Keats sat silently on the weathered park bench while the afternoon sun filtered through the trees. Atlas rested faithfully beside him, never taking his eyes off the worn leather document pouch. Soren and Nyla watched with quiet curiosity as their father carefully opened the first envelope. The official seal of a prestigious law firm appeared across the top, followed by words that seemed impossible to believe. The letter explained that Ronan had been named the sole beneficiary of his great-uncle Cedric Keats' estate, valued at more than $200 million. The attorneys had spent months trying to find him, sending letter after letter to outdated military addresses. Every attempt had failed. Somehow, the final package had been misplaced years earlier when an old rural mailbox was damaged during a property sale, leaving the documents forgotten until Atlas uncovered them. For several long moments, Ronan simply stared. He had survived dangerous missions around the world without losing his composure. Yet this single letter left him speechless. Not because of the money. Because it reminded him that someone in his family had searched for him until the very end. He looked toward Atlas. The loyal German shepherd wagged his tail gently, unaware that one determined moment of digging had completely changed their future. The following Monday morning, Ronan contacted the law firm. Within hours, senior attorneys confirmed every detail. Extensive records, military identification, and DNA verification removed every doubt. The inheritance was real. Along with the fortune came ownership of several charitable foundations, businesses, historic properties, and investment portfolios that Cedric had hoped would someday remain in the Keats family. The lawyers apologized repeatedly for the long delay. Ronan accepted the apology without anger. Life had already taught him that bitterness rarely healed anything. News of the inheritance spread surprisingly fast. Financial newspapers celebrated the discovery of the missing heir. Television stations replayed old military photographs, calling Ronan the forgotten Navy SEAL who unexpectedly inherited one of the country's largest private estates. Then came the phone calls. People who had ignored him for years suddenly remembered his number. Former acquaintances offered congratulations. Distant relatives claimed lifelong affection. Even business executives invited him to exclusive events. But one visit mattered more than all the others. Late one bright afternoon, a luxury car stopped outside Brenna Ellis's small cottage. Stepping out were Mireya's parents. The same people who had placed Ronan's belongings on the front lawn. The same people who believed he wasn't successful enough. Now they arrived carrying expensive gifts, polished smiles, and carefully rehearsed apologies. Ronan welcomed them politely. He offered cold lemonade beneath the warm sunshine while the twins played with Atlas nearby. They apologized for everything. They spoke about family. About fresh beginnings. About mistakes. Ronan listened respectfully. When they finished, he thanked them for coming. Then he quietly explained that forgiveness and trust were not the same thing. He had already forgiven them long ago. Not because they deserved it. Because his children deserved a father free from resentment. But trust had to be earned through actions, not opportunities created by wealth. His words were calm. There was no anger. Only quiet dignity. The couple left understanding that no amount of money could erase the pain they had caused. Meanwhile, Ronan made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of purchasing a massive mansion, he bought a comfortable family home surrounded by trees, open fields, and a large backyard where Atlas could run freely with Soren and Nyla every afternoon. The children finally had tree swings. A vegetable garden. A small library filled with adventure books. A golden retriever puppy eventually joined the family, becoming Atlas's constant companion. For Ronan, happiness had never required luxury. It required peace. Cedric's businesses also changed under Ronan's leadership. Rather than focusing only on profit, he established scholarship programs for military children, expanded housing assistance for wounded veterans, and created emergency funds for widowed military spouses raising children alone. Thousands of families received opportunities they never imagined possible. When reporters asked why he invested so heavily in charity instead of increasing personal wealth, Ronan answered with simple honesty. He explained that serving others had always been his mission. Only the resources had changed. Atlas became something of a local hero. Children at nearby schools loved hearing the story of the brave military dog who discovered the forgotten inheritance. Veterinary organizations honored him with awards for his years of loyal service. Yet every evening Atlas remained exactly the same. He waited beside the dinner table. Walked the twins to school. Rested quietly near Ronan's chair after long days. Fame never mattered to him. Love did. Months later, Brenna Ellis celebrated her 82nd birthday. Ronan quietly purchased and renovated the little guest cottage where she had welcomed his family during their darkest season. Instead of keeping it for himself, he transferred ownership into Brenna's name along with a lifelong financial trust ensuring she would never again worry about repairs or living expenses. When she learned what he had done, tears filled her eyes. Ronan gently reminded her that one act of kindness had protected his children when they had nowhere else to go. No amount of money could ever repay that. The greatest surprise came one spring afternoon during the annual community picnic. Veterans, teachers, firefighters, nurses, and families gathered beneath clear blue skies while children laughed across the park. The mayor invited Ronan to receive an award recognizing his service to both the country and the community. Standing before hundreds of people, Ronan looked toward Soren, Nyla, Brenna, and Atlas sitting proudly together beneath a large oak tree. Instead of speaking about success or inheritance, he shared one lesson. He said the most valuable treasure anyone could ever receive was not found inside a bank account. It was found in the people who stayed beside you when you had nothing left to offer. The crowd stood in silent applause. Many wiped away tears. Because everyone understood the truth behind those words. Before we reach the ending, please leave a comment with the words, "Loyalty is priceless," if you believe true family stands beside you during life's hardest moments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Years passed. Soren and Nyla grew into compassionate young adults inspired by their father's example. Both volunteered regularly with military charities. Atlas eventually grew old, his once powerful stride slowing with each season. On warm sunny afternoons, he preferred resting beneath the shade of the large oak tree while the family gathered around him. One peaceful evening, Ronan sat beside his faithful companion, gently placing a hand on the dog's gray muzzle. He whispered quiet gratitude. Not for finding an inheritance, but for never giving up. Because Atlas hadn't simply uncovered a forgotten document. He had uncovered hope when hope seemed lost. He had reminded one broken father that loyalty can change destinies. The family that had once stood beside scattered cardboard boxes on a stranger's front lawn now stood together inside a home built on love instead of wealth. The inheritance changed their circumstances. Kindness changed their lives. And the loyal dog who refused to walk away became the silent hero of a story that would inspire generations. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in loyalty and second chances, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps us continue sharing emotional stories that remind the world kindness, courage, and unconditional love still exist. Sometimes life hides its greatest blessings in the darkest moments. Sometimes the people who reject us unknowingly guide us toward a better future. And sometimes the greatest fortune we ever receive isn't measured in millions of dollars, but in faithful hearts that never stop believing in us, even when the whole world turns us away.